For years, the auto industry has been telling us the same story. The future is electric. Batteries will replace engines. Charging stations will replace gas pumps. And anyone who doesn't adapt will be left behind. The race seemed almost over. Then Honda did something no one expected. No dramatic reveal. No stadium launch. Just a quiet announcement about a new engine. And somehow, that was enough to make some of the biggest EV companies in the world pause. Because this engine wasn't trying to beat electric cars at their own game. It was questioning the rules entirely. To understand why this matters, you have to understand Honda. This is a company that was born in the ruins of post-war Japan. Soichiro Honda wasn't a billionaire industrialist. He was a mechanic who loved the sound of engines. When Japan had no money and no infrastructure, he strapped small engines onto bicycles so ordinary people could move again. That mindset never left the company. While others chased prestige, Honda chased practicality. When oil prices soared in the 1970s, Honda didn't panic. It built small, fuel-efficient cars like the Civic and quietly captured global trust. Again and again, Honda moved against the current and survived. That's why this moment feels familiar. While the world poured billions into batteries, charging networks, and all-electric lineups, Honda was working in a different direction. Not against EVs, but not fully with them either. And this is where things start to get interesting. Instead of building a massive battery pack and calling it the future, Honda redesigned the role of the engine itself. In this new system, the engine doesn't primarily drive the wheels. Most of the time, it generates electricity. The car moves using electric motors, especially in city traffic. The engine only wakes up when it needs to recharge the system or assist at higher speeds. It runs at a constant, efficient rhythm instead of constantly revving up and down like traditional engines. On paper, it sounds like a hybrid, but that description misses the point, because this isn't about blending old and new. It's about removing the biggest fears people have about going fully electric without forcing them to commit. Think about it. What stops many people from buying an EV today? It's not acceleration. It's not silence. It's uncertainty. The battery is the most expensive part of the vehicle. If it fails, replacement costs can feel overwhelming. Charging stations aren't available everywhere, especially outside major cities, and charging still takes time, sometimes a lot of it. For someone commuting long distances, running deliveries, or living in a town with limited infrastructure, that uncertainty becomes real. It has a name: range anxiety. Now imagine a vehicle that drives like an EV in the city. Smooth, quiet, responsive, but refuels in minutes at any existing station. No hunting for chargers. No waiting an hour to continue a trip. No dependence on a massive battery that will slowly degrade over time. That's the gap Honda stepped into. And this is where the story starts to get uncomfortable. Because if people realize there is a middle path, the entire narrative shifts. For years, the messaging has been clear. Petrol and diesel are outdated. Electric is inevitable. Governments offered subsidies. Companies invested billions in battery factories. Consumers began to believe there was no alternative. But Honda's approach suggests something different. Maybe the transition doesn't have to be abrupt. Maybe efficiency real. Measurable efficiency matters more than labels. And here's what makes this move powerful. Honda didn't design this system for Silicon Valley. It designed it for the rest of the world. In markets across Asia, Africa, and Latin America, charging networks are still limited. Income levels vary. Vehicles are purchased to last a decade or more. For these drivers, reliability and long-term cost matter more than trend alignment. A lighter battery means lower cost. An engine that runs at peak efficiency means less fuel burned overall. And the ability to adapt to future biofuels keeps the door open for cleaner transitions without replacing the entire car. But this only matters once you see what it does to the companies that bet everything on batteries. If you are an EV-only manufacturer, your entire identity is tied to one assumption that the world will choose electric, and only electric. You build factories around that belief. You scale battery production around that belief. You convince investors around that belief. But what happens if consumers suddenly have another option that solves 80% of their concerns without requiring a full leap into charging dependency? The threat isn't that Honda built a faster EV. The threat is that Honda made people think. And thinking changes markets. There's also a deeper question beneath all of this. one that rarely makes headlines. Electric cars don't emit exhaust on the road. That's true. But the electricity powering them often comes from coal or other fossil fuels. The lithium, cobalt, and nickel in their batteries must be mined, transported, and processed. Recycling large battery packs remains complex and expensive. None of this makes EVs bad, but it does make the picture more complicated than the word clean suggests. Honda's argument is subtle. Instead of claiming to be perfect, it focuses on reducing total impact. Burn less fuel, use smaller batteries, design systems that last longer, improve step by step instead of betting everything on a single leap. It's not as flashy, it doesn't generate viral headlines, but it feels grounded, and that grounded approach may be its biggest advantage. Because history shows something about transitions. They rarely happen all at once, they happen in layers. For the next 10 to 15 years, multiple technologies will likely coexist: full EVs, hybrids, hydrogen experiments, ultra-efficient engines. Honda is positioning itself across all of them, not rushing, not abandoning electric development, but refusing to put all its weight on one solution. So the real question isn't whether this engine will kill EVs. That's too dramatic. The real question is more unsettling. What if the future of mobility doesn't belong to the most extreme idea, but to the most adaptable one? If that's true, then Honda's quiet move wasn't a side note in the EV era. It was a reminder that progress isn't always about going all in. Sometimes it's about building a bridge that more people are actually willing to cross. And if millions choose that bridge instead of the leap, what happens to the road everyone else already built? Here's where the ripple starts to spread. Because once you introduce a bridge, you change the psychology of the buyer. Up until now, the decision felt binary. Either you commit to full electric, or you stay behind. That pressure has been subtle, but powerful. Advertising framed EVs as smart, forward-thinking, responsible, and in many ways, they are. But pressure creates resistance, especially when daily life doesn't match the promise. A delivery driver doesn't think in slogans. He thinks in kilometers and minutes. A family in a small town doesn't calculate carbon offsets first. They calculate reliability. Can this car start every morning? Can it handle long highway drives? What happens after 5 years? Honda's system doesn't try to replace the electric experience. It mimics it where it matters most, in the city. Smooth acceleration, quiet operation, efficient stop-and-go traffic. But when the road opens up, when distances stretch and charging stations thin out, the engine steps in like a safety net. Not loud, not aggressive, just consistent. And consistency builds trust. This is where the story shifts from technology to perception. Evenly, companies built momentum by convincing the world that there was no alternative path forward. Investors responded. Governments responded. Entire supply chains were restructured. Battery plants became strategic assets. Charging infrastructure turned into national projects. But markets are fragile when they depend on a single assumption. If consumers begin asking, "What if I don't need a massive battery?" the math changes. Large battery packs are expensive to produce. They depend on rare materials. They're heavy. If demand for maximum range EVs slows even slightly, those production forecasts start looking optimistic. And that's the quiet tension sitting behind. Boardroom doors. Honda didn't attack EV performance. It attacked EV inevitability. There's a difference. Performance can be matched. Inevitability is psychological. It's the belief that there is no other choice. The moment you introduce choice, the narrative fractures. And here's something even more interesting. Honda isn't saying electric is wrong. It's still developing EV. It's investing in hydrogen. It's exploring future fuels. That's what makes this move harder to criticize. It's not rebellion. It's diversification. If full EV adoption accelerates faster than expected, Honda is there. If infrastructure lags behind projections, Honda is there too. That flexibility might not look revolutionary today, but in volatile transitions, flexibility wins. Now, zoom out. In developed cities with strong charging networks, EV adoption will likely continue rising. But in vast regions where power grids are unstable, where charging stations are rare, where incomes are tighter, a smaller battery, fuel-efficient electric-assisted system makes immediate sense, and these regions represent billions of people. The future of mobility won't be decided only in California or Norway. It will be shaped in India, Indonesia, Brazil, Nigeria, places where infrastructure growth and consumer budgets move at different speeds. Honda knows these markets intimately. It has sold motorcycles and compact cars there for decades. It understands that progress must be practical, and that's the word that keeps coming back.